Let me say something that might make some nonprofit leaders very uncomfortable. Sometimes the reason you're not getting larger gifts has absolutely nothing to do with donor capacity. It has everything to do with how you see your mission and yourself as its leader. I've watched nonprofit leaders sit across from donors who have capacity to give six-figure gifts and only ask for 2,500. Why? Because deep down they're afraid of hearing no, afraid of sounding too bold, afraid they're asking for too much. But here's the reality: if you ask small, you'll usually receive small, no matter how wealthy the donor is. See, your ask communicates belief, your ask communicates vision, your ask tells the donor how valuable you believe the mission really is. Today, we're talking about why major gift fundraising success starts with leadership confidence and why the size of your ask often reflects the size of your belief. That is our focus in this episode. Let's huddle up. Hey, welcome to another episode of Huddle Up with Mark, the Fund Coach. I'm Mark Duncan. And if that opening seemed a little frustrating, or if I came across a little annoyed, I am. And it just, I see this often. I see nonprofit leaders who have the knowledge of the capacity of the person that they're meeting with and building a relationship with, but somehow something's missing, something's not connecting. And so we're going to dive into this today. First of all, if you are not engaged in wealth screening, I cannot express how important that is. If you are watching this podcast on YouTube, in the description, there is a link for Windfall. Windfall is the company that I partner with that provides most of the people that I work with their wealth screening service. And it is amazing what you learn when you wealth screen your database. You've got some people under your nose. I say this all the time. You have some people under your nose that have significant capacity. They're already giving to you. And in many cases, you already know them. It's the perfect best case scenario. It is the perfect formula for success. It takes all of the guesswork out of it. When I started coaching, one of the things I was most concerned about is not only teaching and empowering people, giving them the confidence to secure these large gifts, but what is going to help them with that confidence. And when I discovered Windfall, I was thrilled because it takes the guesswork out of it. I'm not going to bore you with the back in my day speech before Windfall existed, way before Windfall existed, back when I was early in my career in fundraising. And fortunately, I was in a space where we had staff that actually did research and provided me with profiles that were fairly accurate, but they took a long time to produce. Not going to bore you with that at all. I want to talk about what the crux of the matter is from my observation, from my perspective, so that you know what to do to be successful when it comes to making these asks. See, the relationship building part of this, nobody really has a problem with that. Who has a problem with calling somebody and asking them for coffee? Who has a problem with taking them on a tour of your organization, showing them your mission and telling the story? No one has a problem with that. The challenge is that when it comes time to ask, we under ask. We soften the ask. We avoid specific numbers. That is one of my biggest frustrations, is that I try to get folks, I think it's important. I have proven this in my own career that you must say the number that you want. How much are you asking for? Or you never make the ask at all. And a lot of this comes out of a fear of rejection, fear of sounding greedy, imposter syndrome, scarcity mindset, which I talk about often, personal discomfort around money, which speaks to your own money story, and not wanting to offend donors. It's a long list. So let's talk about them. So first, the whole under asking, and not wanting to, come across greedy. When you look at a donor's capacity, and especially if you know their net worth, that should give you enough confidence to know that they have the capacity to give and give significantly. Now, part of building the relationship that's important, in addition to them trusting you as a leader and hearing more about the mission and the people that you serve and how you do that effectively, it's also paying attention to what they're telling you about themselves. You may hear things that research won't tell you. You may hear things about family dynamics, family situations, other things that may give you an indication that they may be carrying more than what you initially thought. But for the most part, you can't let what you're hearing from them absolutely dictate how you're going to ask, because you're creating a framework, probably subconsciously, that is limited by your own relationship with money, your own ability to understand it. So if you know that a donor, in your building a relationship with them and getting to know them, you hear that they're doing some renovations on their property, or they're purchasing something new, or they're whatever that may be. And in your mind, like, again, it's all relative, right? This is the thing we have to remember, that it's all relative. So in your mind, when you hear this, or at least they may not be sharing the dollar amount of the cost, that would probably not happen, but they may in passing, yeah, we're going to be purchasing a place here, we're thinking about purchasing a second home here, right? And you may think about that as, wow, that's a pretty big thing. This is probably not the time for me to ask, or I'm not going to ask for as much. And that is keeping you from securing the funds that you need, because the donor didn't ask you to think for them. The donor isn't asking you to pay their bills for them. The donor isn't asking you to do the math and worry for them. That's what happens, is that we take on what we believe is true, but is nowhere near close to the reality. So we have to understand, and I always, maybe not always, often, and maybe I think I've only talked about this once or twice on this podcast, and that is the platinum rule. We all know what the golden rule is: do unto others as we would have done unto us. Treat others like we want to be treated, right? No brainer, golden rule. But I challenge you, and not just when it comes to fundraising, in life in general, to adopt the platinum rule. And that is do unto others as they would have you do unto them. So you're not treating people like you want to be treated. You're paying attention and you're treating them like they want to be treated. And so now it isn't about your reality and your relationship with money. It's about their reality and their relationship with money. And then on top of that, and most important, is the people that you serve. You see, your job as a leader is to make sure that you are leading the organization, both in whatever programs and services that you provide and create for the people that you serve, to make sure you're serving them in the best possible way. That includes securing the financial resources to continue to take things to the next level. And that only happens when you lean into this relationship fundraising. So let's talked about under asking, soften the ask, avoid specific numbers. I want to talk about that right now. I cannot express enough how important this is. I have seen over the years where either it's a nonprofit leader or a volunteer who is soliciting someone for a gift, slide in front of them a chart of the gift options and then ask the question, where do you see yourself on this chart? That's something that they taught us back in the 80s and 90s. That was how you asked without asking. And now you're giving them an option to choose from a menu instead of telling them what's for dinner. And so what you have to understand is that using that number that you want creates context. It creates context. Because if you come in and you're not clear and you're wishy-washy, then the donor's going to not take advantage of it, but they say, okay, well, I guess they don't need that much, so I'm going to settle for something lower. So it's really critical that you ask for the number that you want. And recognize, and I say this often, I'm not going to harp on this, whatever it is that you're feeling, whatever it is that you are assigning to your donor about their ability or their likelihood or their inclination to support at the level that you want to ask them for, it's about you, not about them. Ask yourself, is there anything that they've said, done directly that gave you that indication that they would not be willing to give as much as you're going to ask them for? See, if donors aren't interested in giving, you're going to know that pretty early on, because they're either going to let you know that they're not interested in giving, or that they're going to delay or avoid or not meet with you, or just say, I can't right now, I've got other obligations happening. And that happens. But when you're engaged in a relationship that's going smoothly and the capacity is there and you've answered all the questions that they have, nothing's standing in your way. So this is about you understanding when you see capacity, and I'm talking about significant capacity in the 8, 9, 10 figure net worth capacity. And I work with many nonprofit leaders, rather, who have prospects with that kind of net worth. And yet there's hesitancy about asking for a $25,000 gift. And that hesitancy has got very little to do once you understand and you stand back and you examine why you're feeling this way. It's likely because of you and not them. They may have said something like they're going to purchase something or they've got something going on, and you may have a tendency to blow it out of proportion. Your asks are a reflection on how you see yourself as a leader and how you value your organization. See, the mindset of many nonprofit leaders, especially in the small to mid-sized organizations that are doing very localized work, is that they think we only deserve to be here. We don't deserve much more than this. So we're only going to work to sustain what we have. And we're not going to be greedy. Greedy. Think about that. It's not greedy to help more people who are in need. You created the organization or you started working for the organization because you care deeply about the mission. You wanted to make a difference. Then make a difference and lean into these relationships, especially with people who are right under your nose, who have significant capacity, that trust you as a leader. And all you have to do is build that strong relationship, make the case, make the ask, close the deal. So your ask reflects how you see your mission, how you see yourself, and it is a reflection on you as a leader. Because donors don't typically counter up. If you ask for $100,000 gift, there aren't very many donors that are going to say, "Oh, well, I'll give you 200,000." It happens. There are stories out there where it happens, but typically that's not the case. You ask for 100 when they have the capacity to give you 1,000,000. They're going to give you $100,000. And they're going to say, "Okay, that must be what they need." Think about that. Your mission is worth more. Your mission is worth leaning in and thinking primarily about the people that you serve. So if you want to make a difference, you really want to make an impact, you want to scale your mission. Maybe it's something you want to scale beyond the community that you're serving now. Maybe you want to scale, regionally or nationally or internationally. It only happens when you think big, trust yourself, believe in yourself, and most importantly, think about the people that you serve, because that's why you do what you do. And if they're not, if you don't have an imaginary person that you serve sitting alongside you when you're soliciting, I highly encourage you to do that, because you're a conduit. You're the conduit for them. You're the person they're relying on, not literally, right? But you're the person they're relying on to take it to the next level. So I cannot stress this enough. I often, and yes, I'm frustrated. I am. And it's okay for me to be frustrated. I'm not frustrated in a way that's angry. I'm frustrated because there's missed opportunities happening every single day. when you don't ask for what that person has the capability of giving because you don't believe enough in your mission. I take that back. Not belief. You don't value. There's a difference. You can believe in what you're doing, but do you value it enough to want it to grow and prosper? Do you value yourself as a leader so that you can grow and prosper? Because when that happens, the people that you serve grow and prosper. And that's what it is all about. I'm probably going to continue to talk about this in future podcasts. I believe it is a topic worth exploring. And I'm even thinking about doing something special as it relates to this discomfort, this fear, even though the tea leaves align and tell you that, yeah, this is the number, the net worth, the fact that they've been giving to your organization, the fact that they're listening and asking questions. They're waiting. They're just waiting for you to make the right move. But donors will follow your lead. So you have to lead them to a place that aligns with their capacity to give and their willingness to give because they believe in what you do. I hope this has been helpful to you. More to come. And as always, this fundraising thing, it's not about the dollars. It's about what the dollars do for the people that you serve. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you next time.